All right, guys, what is up? Welcome. This is Breakfast with the Brand. Of course, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders like you who want to take your brand to the next level. If you are tuned in live, go ahead and put some flames in the comments and also let us know where you're listening in from. I'm your host, Junior Frederick, and I have with me the man himself, Mr. Bobby Stealth. And we're going to be getting into the fundamentals of branding. Of course, this show is 100% live. So if you do have any questions or any comments, anything you want to say as we go along, feel free to put it in the comments. Bobby, how you doing?
Absolutely phenomenal, Junior. It's a interesting morning this morning. I was working out, pushing it pretty hard. And have you ever had one of those reps where you're like not thinking you're gonna make it, and then you actually make it? It's like you're struggling, you're pulling, everything is shaking, and you're like, I'm not gonna make it, and you
Oh
end up
yeah.
making it. So I had one of those reps today that felt really good. So I'm excited about today's show, going into the fundamentals of branding and where it takes us.
Yes, sir. I want to send a quick shout out as usual to the people that are commenting. So I see Tia, shout out to you. Bradley says phenomenal morning from Texas. And I'm gonna say phenomenal morning from the lovely island of St. Lucia. So that's where I'm from, guys. I'm from the lovely island of St. Lucia. Do we have any people from the Caribbean watching? Just put your flag, wherever you're from, put it in the chat if you're from the Caribbean. Shout out to you. I see Joel Smith, the strategic leadership expert. Mr. Joel Smith says good morning to all. Shout out to Joel and good morning to you. All right, guys. So today we're going to be talking about the fundamentals of branding. I mean, you could never get too deep into the subject of branding. Like, what even is a brand? So, Bobby, we're gonna go all the way back. Let's peel back the layers. I think we have some new listeners, so let's peel back the layers. Go all the way back. Like, what is a brand even? What does it mean to brand yourself today? Why should you even bother branding yourself in the first place? And we're gonna talk about some of the strategies, systems, as well as just the information that you need to know if you're a business owner that is seeking to build a brand in today's economy. So we're going to be getting into that. But before we go to our first quick break, is there anything that you'd like to say to our audience?
No, you're right. We can never go too deep into the brand, so I'm excited to see where we take it.
Definitely. Guys, stay tuned. When we come back, we'll be talking about branding. Of course, you don't want to miss it. So stay tuned 100%. We'll be right back after this quick break.
In brand clarity, exactly what you're going to get is what it sounds like. Clarity for your brand. What is your color? What is your logo? What is your unique value proposition? Who are you speaking to? Why? How should you speak to them? How should I position myself? That's what you're going to learn in brand clarity. You need other people to have the same clarity on your brand that you do. But this is the gap. If you don't have clarity on your brand, then no one else is going to have clarity on your brand either. It's like messaging. Your message sounds clear to you, but is your end user receiving the value that you're trying to provide? I guarantee you that after you go through brand clarity, they will, and so will you. And that's how you'll scale your brand. When I think of brand you, I think of being your best self, your most authentic. The reason why we were able to crush business, absolutely dominate in business without having the marketing list, without having the email huge list, without having the Facebook ads and the advertising budget, without knowing the algorithm. The reason we were able to do this is because I branded myself. I told my authentic story and I was comfortable in my skin. Why? Because it was that time in the world where everything was shifting. It was 2020, March. So you remember what happened during that time. It was like the world was coming to an end. So you didn't have anything to hold back. So I chose to give everything that I had and be everything that I am. And because I was that, because I branded me, because I was authentic, everything shifted. And people wanted more. And they wanted to know more about me and how they could become more comfortable in their skin. Listen, guys, when you brand you and not what you do, you're going to add a zero to the world. But you'll also add a zero to your revenue. Let's grow.
Hey, Junior, I'm super excited about today's call because I've been having a lot of conversations. And a lot of the conversations I've been having with people is, do you know what personal branding is. Like I asked them the question, like, what do you know about personal branding? And a lot of them say very little, very little. But if I tell them a personal brand, all of them know who I'm talking about. Michael Jordan is a personal brand, right? Elon Musk, personal brand. Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Warren Buffett. Now, these are the billion-dollar brands, but you also have other brands such as Alex Hormozy, phenomenal brand. But these are people, these are individuals. You have Elliot. I think I forget his first name, but he's got like the Elliott
Yeah.
Group and he does sales.
Yeah. Andy, talking about Andy Elliott, right?
Yeah, I've been following him more. David Goggins, like all of these guys are personal brands. And I asked them, how much do you know about this? And they tell me, very little. So with us peeling back the onion and thinking about what a personal brand really is, I want everybody that's watching to just take a moment and think about one of your favorite personal brands. One of the people that you look up, Oprah, personal brand. For my ladies out there, there's a lot of ladies out there that follow us, and there's some phenomenal female personal brands out there, tons of them, right? And one of my favorites is Michael Jordan. I love Michael Jordan's brand because it's so like edgy to me. It's like when he's on the court, he's like this beast, this animal. When he's like on the interview, he's this very calm, cool, collected franchise man. And then when he's on the golf course, he's this cigar smoking, betting man. That is respectable. He's like got billions of dollars, so he can bet a few hundred grand and nobody really lose their top because it's like he's a billionaire. But that's a part of his brand. And I like that because it's dynamic. So what I like to think about as far as personal branding before I pass it to you, Junior, is that your brand is an extension of you. So personal branding, I think Junior has said this before actually, is it's your brand. Your brand, if it's a personal brand, is your morals, values, and principles demonstrated in the form of an organization or corporation or something like that. And I think that's how Junior has put it in the past. And I think that's one of the best definitions I've heard of it. So that's what I think would be a great way to dive into this conversation, is us just picking apart some personal brands that everybody knows, looking at the different angles of them and kind of seeing where that takes us.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby, I was just like, while you were speaking, I was literally just thinking about how to sort of dissect this in a way that's super simple so everybody could understand. If you're looking at us right now, I want you to pick up a pen and just write this down. So write down personal brand. Let's chop this up into two different words, like two phrases, right? So what is a brand? A brand is, in simple terms, an association. So back in the day, let's go way back. Back in the day, when people did a lot of cattle farming and stuff like that, where you used to have sheep and cows and all of these different animals. Farmers used to use the hot iron, right, to brand their cows. So if my cow went down the street and Bobby came across my cow, and then it had this brand on this tag on it, he knew that it was mine. Okay, so that's basically where it came from. And we could go all the way back to Egypt. We could go all the way back to the pyramids, Bobby. Branding has always been something that's taken place. But realistically, when you really and truly boil it down to like just the fundamentals, as we say, branding is basically an association.
Yeah.
That's literally what it is. A brand is an association. So when you look at a personal brand, the question is, what is your person associated with? That's a simple way to think of it. So you are your own person. Okay. So what is Bobby associated with? What has Bobby associated himself with in the mind of his audience? And that's how I define a personal brand. That's another way. Okay. A more simple way. So basically, if you want to know what your brand is, ask yourself, what do people think about when they think about you? Very, very simple. If they think about finances, that makes up part of your personal brand. Now, what's interesting, Bobby, is that a personal brand is not just made up of one thing. In fact, inside of branded like a leader, and in many of those alien calls, and in many of those leadership lives, deep dives at fives that we did a couple years ago, we often spoke about what is called a brand ecosystem. And Sean puts it the terms of having like an ecosystem or having like a galaxy with different planets, and each planet in your galaxy is something that you're associated with. So, for example, we have coaching, we have sales, we have branding, we have this, we have that. So each of those things would be a separate planet in that solar system or that ecosystem that makes up your brand. Now, when you look at people like Michael Jordan, you spoke about three different things. You spoke about who he is on the court, you spoke about who he is in an interview, you also spoke about who he is on the golf course. This is exactly what I'm talking about. All of those elements goes into his personal brand, and it creates what you call an ecosystem of association. Now, what's brilliant is the more of an interesting person you are. So the more interesting you are, the bigger your brand, because the more people could relate to you, because you have more points of these points of affinity, as I like to call them. So if you like cigars, but you don't necessarily like basketball, you could have an affinity for Michael Jordan because he smokes cigars. If you don't even like cigars but you like golf, you could have an affinity with him. You could create a connection with him because he loves golf. If you don't like golf but you like basketball, then there's an affinity there. And what you find is that the more points of association that one has, the more interesting you are as a person, the more compelling and the more attractive you are as a brand. So, in very simple terms, personal branding is what are the association of terms, or what is associated with you, or what do people think about when they think about you?
That's so good, Junior. That's so good because I remember a story about Kobe Bryant, and he hired a acting coach, and he hired this coach because he wanted them to teach him how to get into character.
Hmm.
So when we're talking about branding, you can almost imagine a character. There's different zones that you have to get into. Like, I don't know. I'll speak for me. Bobby the closer and Bobby the speaker are the same person but different energies. Like if I'm closing a deal or I'm on the other side of a prospect that is depending on me to lead them to the way, to apply pressure when necessary, to help them make the best decision possible, I've got to come in there with a certain energy. The Wolf of Wall Street talks about the confidence that you need to have. It's a phenomenal book. And he just shares the straight line method, like just getting straight to it and helping people make great decisions. Now, a part of my brand is being able to be the person that can ethically apply pressure and provide information, insight, and guidance. So I share that piece because that's an element, that's a character, that's a persona. So when Shaan teaches it to us, he taught us coaching, consulting, speaking, closing, marketing, and branding, all of these different things. So one thing that I really enjoy about branding, since we're having the conversation, is you're oftentimes going to wear multiple hats. And when you have a strong origin brand story, you can bring all of those hats back to the same story. Shaan says, I'm just a kid from Harlem. I say, I'm just a passionate veteran who fell in love with business. So it all goes back to the origin brand story because we're dealing with the fundamentals of branding today. So one thing that I think is really interesting about Michael Jordan, about Mike Tyson, about Kobe Bryant is their origin is competition. Like if you trace them back, you might hear Michael Jordan say something like, I'm just a kid from North Carolina that was determined to make it in basketball. Kobe Bryant may just say something like, my dad was a basketball player and I was determined to follow his footsteps. But you can take it back to a certain space. And I think that's really important. So for me, what I like to get across is how are you thinking about you and your multiple hats? And I'm talking to the audience now. Like, how are you thinking about you as a mother, as a sister, as a business owner, as an executive, as a leader, and do all of those hats tie back to your origin brand story? And if they do, then great. If they don't, then there may be a gap in authenticity. And those gaps in authenticity can create lacks in confidence, gaps in confidence.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I tell people Just be true to who you are. A lot of people try to be pretenders. And that could be like, you could be like, for example, a lot of these influencers that they rent like jets and stuff like that. Like, guys, you have to be a contender, not a pretender. You have to be a contender. You're contending for the top spot. You're contending to be the best in your space. You're contending for the attention of your audience, but you never pretend. And I'm not talking about just in the case of money. I'm also talking about, just not being who you are. Like, because eventually, I have a theory, Bobby, that the universe is ruled by truth.
Hmm.
Like, truth is just a fundamental, like a law of gravity. So I believe that at some level, if you're not true to who you are, the same way the market has corrections, there's gonna come a time where whatever you pretend to be is going to be corrected. I really and truly believe that. So I believe in you know, just being who you are, because I guarantee you, you're unique, you're special. But as special as you are, as unique as you are, there are people just like you. There are people who've experienced the same pain. There are people going through the same struggle. There are people that have been through the same thing. There are people that are looking for a voice. I want you to imagine, like, I can remember the first time I heard a motivational speaker. That was several years ago. Okay, one day, what was I doing? I think I was actually, I was training. I was doing something, Bobby. I've always been training for a long time,
Hmm.
almost 20 years. I was an athlete in school. I had a calisthenics group back in the day, which I started. So I've always been training, and I came across, it was actually Les Brown. It was a Les Brown speech on YouTube, believe it or not. I came across that, and this is the one where he tells his story. He tells his personal story, and um, he was given up for adoption. He was labeled mentally retarded. He tells a story about being in the classroom and all that. When I heard that story, that story absolutely, it changed my mind completely when I heard that story. But why am I saying this? The point of me saying this is that I don't know Les Brown. I didn't know him. He doesn't know me. Okay. In that moment, like, there's somebody somewhere around the world that you have not met, that you don't know, that has not had a chance to listen to your voice. But if you put out your message in an authentic way, I guarantee you there is somebody somewhere around the world, may not be in the US, could be in Africa, could be in Spain, could be in Nigeria, wherever. There's somebody somewhere around the world that needs to hear what you have to say. So I encourage everybody to put out your story, be authentic, be true to who you are, be a contender and not a pretender, and just give it all you got.
Yeah, that's really incredible, Junior, because Les Brown was one of the first motivational speakers that I heard as well. And when I think about storytelling, I think back to my life as a rapper. So many of you all know that that's what I did in a past life. That's actually how I met my wife. For those that are in the U.S., I was opening up for E40, and we were in California. He's a big Bay Area rapper, mainstream and everything. So it was a pretty big turnout. And one of the things about rap is you're usually telling a story. You're communicating a message. You're getting someone to feel what you felt. And that's a part of what we call MCing, or the master of ceremony. When all the people are in one room, it's a ceremony, and you're the master of the ceremony because you're commanding the audience, you're commanding the room. And as an MC, that's very similar to business and being in the marketplace. It's like the marketplace is where everybody congregates, where everybody hangs out. And if you have a mic, so to speak, you have a platform, a social media platform that you're speaking from. At that point, you become the MC. You become the master of ceremony. You're the person everybody's listening to for the moment. Now, if you want to get the guy saying, hey, ho, and waving their hands in the air, right? Like, you can do that, but you got to connect. And if you don't connect, you cannot infect. So that's something that I think the brand has to do very importantly. So when we talk about personal branding, we talked about the person and the associations. So when I was an artist and I had to get on stage, we call it reading the room. You want to kind of see who's in the room. And by who's in the room and how they're dressed, you've got a pretty good idea if you're going to connect or not. Because before you open your mouth and even say your first word, say your first lyric, they've already judged you. And if they haven't judged you as being someone that they associate with, then they've already stopped listening to you, because they're at the club, they're in this room, so they're talking to other people. Everybody probably has been to a club before, or a concert or something like that. So I just want you to think about it, because this is something that's not so business, but really connects very well to business. So it's easy to understand. So imagine if you were at a concert or at a club of some kind, jazz club, whatever you like, whatever music you like, and the people on the stage don't look like you. They don't dress like you would dress. They're the opposite of what you think they are. And the moment they open their mouth, they sound completely like what you don't want to hear. You're going to turn to your friend. You're going to keep on talking to your friend. You're probably going to go get some drinks, probably going to go outside and come back in after they're off the stage. How many times has that happened to somebody in business? The brand isn't positioned properly. The messaging isn't connecting. And they wait for the person to just get off stage, to stop talking, to run out of money. Like the ads are not connecting. So they wait for the person to stop advertising. And you don't want to be that. Like, you don't want to be that type of person in the music industry. And most of us don't have money to simply blow on ads and connecting. So how can you connect faster? How can you make sure you take what I learned in the music industry and apply it to your business? Well, first things first is market research. Now, when we say be authentic, we mean it. Be authentic to you. Don't change you, but also understand who you are enough to understand if you're targeting the right people, if you're targeting people like you. Because one myth is build it and they will come. What that means is be you to the point that whatever you build, people are just going to buy. Like, that's arrogant. That's not true. Like, you want to be you, but if you build what you want and not what they want, they're not going to buy it. They're not going to engage with it because it's not what they want. So it's a fine line, same as in music. Like, I couldn't just write the music I wanted to hear the way I wanted to hear it because I wasn't buying all the music. I had to position myself in a way that allowed me to communicate music that I resonated with, but deliver it in a way that they could receive it. And when you can do that with your brand and with your messaging, and you have that degree of clarity on who your ideal client is, everything else starts to make more and more sense.
Bobby, I think we should go to a quick break. But when we come back, guys, I'm going to be talking about the messaging, because this is something that literally everybody asked me about. In fact, I just did a project a couple of days ago. You know, I'm a copywriter. That's my background. For those of you who don't know me, I started doing copy about almost 10 years ago, actually, Bobby, doing copywriting and stuff like that, building sales pages, landing pages. I started doing social media for one influencer, help him grow his following on Instagram from, I think he was at 200,000, help him grow to like 700,000. So I have a lot of experience when it comes to messaging. Guys, stay tuned, because when we come back, I'm going to be divulging some of the secrets. Okay, so I'm going to be opening up the books and I'm going to be talking about some of the processes that I go through to get messaging that attracts and converts like clockwork. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a leader, if you're online, period, if you're selling something, whether it's a service, a product, whether it's an idea, then you're going to want to stay tuned, because when we come back, I'm going to be talking about the keys to successfully putting out messages that attract and convert your clients like clockwork. Stay tuned.
It's very important that you know yourself to the highest degree possible, because it's through knowing ourselves that we're able to know other people. You are the most important person in the room, and the better that you know yourself, the better that you're able to communicate to others. So you're not only playing the game knowing who you are, but you're also playing the game knowing who everyone else is, so that you're not playing blind.
He's extremely engaging with people. He has a fantastic smile, and he's just very high energy person.
This is called leadership development. So we have to be independently knowledgeable and considerate to know who we are, so we can more effectively know who other people are. As the leader, it's your responsibility to allocate resources in the right places. If you don't know how to communicate effectively, you're losing the battle.
All right, guys, so we are back. And just like Shaan just said, if you don't know how to communicate effectively, then you're losing the battle. So let's talk about that. What does it take to actually communicate and build effective and attractive and compelling messages online? This is something that I do literally every single day. In fact, I'm going to do this today when we get off this call. So, how do you do that? Well, here's something you need to know. When it comes to marketing, marketing has three pillars without which nothing works. If you don't have any one of those three things, you could have two of them and not have one of them, it doesn't work. If you have one of them and you don't have the other two, it doesn't work. You need to have all three of what I'm about to share with you for any kind of marketing to work anywhere. I don't care if it's through a letter, I don't care if it's through an email, I don't care if it's through social media, if it's through a text message, if it's through a pigeon, right? Send a message via pigeon. You need to have these three things in order for marketing to work. So let's get into it. Number one. So the number one thing you need to know is who is your target audience or what is that market? Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about, just the regular demographics, Bobby. So oftentimes I ask people like, who's your target market? They tell me, well, my target market is 45-year-old woman who's married, who lives in California, works a 9 to 5, makes 60K a year. She has two kids, a dog, and a white picket fence. That's not what I'm talking about. That's phenomenal. That's good. So demographics are good. As a copywriter, as a marketer, we go into what is called psychographics. So demographics tell you where that audience is in like the physical world. The psychographics tell you where they are in the mental world. Okay, so in order for you to influence anybody, you have to know what already influences them. So there are a couple things that I look for inside of an audience when I do my market, my target market audience profiles to really help me craft that effective and compelling messaging, Bobby. And here they are. So number one, of course, I need to know the demographics, like I just expressed. But apart from the demographics, what I'm looking for, number one, is I'm looking for what is the current state. So, what is the current state of the audience? Meaning that what is currently frustrating them? So, what are the top three daily frustrations? What do they care about? What are they feeling right now? What pain are they currently experiencing? I want to know that. Where in their life cycle are they? What is their current state? What is their current position? I need to know that, number one. So, when they come to me, I need to know exactly how they feel, not just where they are, but how they think and how they feel. So that is the current state. Number two, I want to know the dream state. So, what is the dream state? The dream state is where they want to get to. What is the desire? And basically, you can think of it like this. How many of you have ever daydreamed? And put a number one in the comments if this is you. How many of you have ever daydreamed about your ideal life? So for me, Bobby, sometimes I'll close my eyes and I'll think about like where I want to live on the island, and I always picture this lovely area in between the twin peaks, with the backyard is facing the sea, it's right next to a cliff, and when the sunrise comes up, I could actually see the sun coming up out of the ocean. It's only me around. There's nobody around us, and it's just lush vegetation, peace, quiet. There's parrots, there's birds, there's all kinds of stuff, and it's just pure nature and just pure bliss. So for you, where do you go in your mind when you think about why you do what you do and the life that you want? That place, that desire, that ambition is called a dream state. Now, once I know this dream state, I know your current state, meaning I know, how you are, how you think when you come to me, and in other words, to you, if it's your audience. I know your dream state. I know where you want to get to. The next thing I need to know, Bobby, is what is the roadblock? So, what is the thing that is stopping you? What is standing in between you, your current state, and your dream state? Why is it that you can't just go to your dream state? There's something that's standing in between you and getting what you want. I need to know what that thing is. So, what is the roadblock? What is the main thing preventing you? What is the number one challenge? What are the top three challenges that you're going through right now? What is the main roadblock preventing you from getting there? Once I identify the roadblock, I can identify what I call a bridge. A bridge is the solution to the roadblock, something that's going to take you over the roadblock. So think of the bridge as literally a bridge, like building a bridge to take you over a river. So the river is the roadblock, stopping you from getting from point A to point B. The bridge helps you cross the river. And here's the thing. Check this out. Here's where you come in. Here's where your product comes in. Your product is the solution, but your product is a vehicle, okay, that's gonna take you from point A to point B. That's gonna take your audience from point A to point B. So it'll be like back in 2008, I went to New York in 2008, and then I went to one of the places I went to was Staten Island. I went to Staten Island just to visit. And when you go to Staten Island, there's like this ferry, I think, that takes you like from you know one part of the land to the island, right? So your solution is like that ferry. It's gonna take you from the mainland to the island where you want to get to, or to your dream state. Without that ferry, you can't cross.
Mhm.
You're not exactly going to swim. So your solution is like a vehicle that takes the client from point A to point B. Now, very important, you don't do the work for the client. Your solution empowers, your vehicle empowers the client to do the work for themselves. So the vehicle empowers Bobby to go from point A to point B. Now, once I have these things, which is literally everything I need to write the copy, I still have to ask myself, Bobby, and this is something a lot of copywriters don't even think about. But what is the big idea? What is the big idea? And when I say big idea, I mean like, what is the thing? In sales, we call it the dominant buying motive. What is the big idea? What is the appeal that I need to have in order to get the client to say yes? Because you can present something, you could present the right solution. If you present the right thing in the wrong way, it doesn't convert. So back in the day when Dove came out, okay, Dove, which everybody knows is the soap brand, Dove came out as a soap bar for men with dirty hands. And then the sales went like this. The sales went down. They rebranded and they presented Dove as a body wash for women with dry skin. And then the sales went like this. Same product, different presentation of the same product, and you got a different result. So for me, I'm asking myself, what is the big idea? What is the right appeal? Or what or appeal is code word for positioning. So we're talking about branding as well. What is the right positioning? What is the right appeal or positioning that you need to have in order to get the result that you want? Now, how do you do that? That takes a lot of research, that takes a lot of strategic thinking, takes a lot of thought. And sometimes, Bobby, you just have to day off, go by the beach, or
Mhm.
drive downtown and just think about it until you get the right appeal. Like, don't start writing because you can start writing, but if you start writing on the wrong foot, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example, practical example. The other day, I was writing copy for someone, and they have this coaching program. So the coaching program, like a regular coaching program, it has three levels: group coaching, one-on-one coaching, etc., etc. Now, their whole thing was appealing to men. So they were building a community of men who had gone through past trauma, and they've become healed, and now they want to be better fathers, better husbands, stuff like that. So I said to him, I know that you're doing a coaching program, but for your audience, a coaching program is not necessarily the best appeal. I said to him, I want you to sell this as a community and just include the coaching program inside the community. Because the community, for people like that, the community is a stronger pull, a stronger appeal than just saying this is just like another coaching program.
Mhm.
No, this is not just another coaching program. This is a global community of men who are aspiring or coming together to help each other grow to become their fullest and their best selves. And one of the ways they do that is through coaching. That's different from saying that this is just a coaching program. So that's what I mean when I say, what is the big idea? What is the appeal? And then I'll give you one more tip before I pass it to Bobby. Find successful people, like success leaves clues. So if you're trying to target an audience, find somebody who has already successfully targeted that audience and see what they do, see the kind of messaging they've used, see the kind of messaging that works on that particular audience, and ask yourself, how can you sort of remove them from that messaging, but put yourself inside that system, so to speak. And if you could do these three things that I mentioned, you should have no problem writing copy that converts.
I think they just need to let that sit for a minute, Junior. We just need to let that sit. Like that was a clinic, an absolute clinic. I got some good notes here, and as I'm letting it digest myself, I'm thinking about where the audience might be in this process.
Mhm.
So if you guys can help us out, let me know in the chat where you feel like you are. Are you at the market research stage where you're researching your market? Are you at the messaging stage where you're getting your message across? Are you at that more of the product solution stage where you're creating the bridge and your product is the solution and all of that stuff? So put that in as you feel. I'll go from there. But if you put it in the chat, that'll definitely help me out as I tailor what I'm about to say to where you guys are. So one thing that I've noticed is business happens fast. It happens fast, but it feels like it's taking forever. In the military, and Joel can attest to this. The days feel long, the weeks feel long, but the years go by fast. The days feel long, the weeks feel long, the months feel long, but the years go by fast. And that's the same thing in business. It's like figuring out who your ideal client really is. Like who are they really? It feels like it's going to take forever. It's like, man, I'm talking to these guys. I'm talking to these guys. I'm not talking to these guys. So now that I see the comments coming in, I'm definitely going to touch on each of those. I'm going to touch on each of those. And then once you get the ideal client piece down, you got the marketing down, then it's time for the messaging. So now you're trying this message, that message, this message, and you're seeing all these other people that are making money saying the same thing that you're saying, but you're like, why are they not buying from me? We're saying the same thing. And then you go through this phase of it's usually one word, like it's usually two words. Like everybody's saying branding now, but they weren't before. Like you can go back in our history and see that we were some of the first people to start talking about personal branding, the importance of it. But now everybody's talking about it. So what differentiates us? The small things, the 3 E's, the 3 I's, the let's grow. So like as you're going through your messaging, like you're going to be saying relatively something similar because a lot of people have the same problems, but you're going through that phase of where you're trying to find out what works for you, crickets to digits, what connects with your ideal client. And that takes time. Feels like it takes forever, but it really goes by fast. So I wanted to share that piece with you as I open this up, because what you're doing right now is going really fast. It might just not, it just doesn't feel like it. Like you really are moving at light speed if you're coming to Breakfast with the Brand every day, because you're getting more repetition, more information, more insight every day. So you're booking it, trust me. And when it all starts to connect for you, it's going to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. And people are going to call you an overnight success, like it always happens. And you're going to say in the back of your mind, because you're very polite and ethical, you're not going to say this out loud, but in the back of your mind, you're going to say, you have no freaking idea. The work, the sweat, the tears, the blood, the this, the that went into building this brand that you said happened overnight. But that's the way it works. So as I lean into some of these, I'm just going to touch on how they unfolded for me, some of the tools I used, some of the methods that I just found success with. So Joel says combination of marketing and solutions. So the solution piece I found was something I didn't know. I'll put it like this. when I teach this to other people in my background, so Junior's background is copywriting, my background is entrepreneurship as far as schooling wise. Like that's what I went to college for. So entrepreneurship with a concentration in finance and economics. So when I share these things, it's from a very technical evidence-based approach. So when it comes to solution development, what we say on the entrepreneur side is build, measure, learn. Build something, measure the effectiveness of it, learn based on the feedback loop, and iterate towards perfection. Iterate towards perfection. Now, what this looks like is often us not knowing what the solution is. The client knows what the problem is. We have tools to solve the problem, but we don't always know what the solution is. So how do we market this? Well, what Shaan taught us in one of the courses, I think it was Branded Like a Leader, was 3 questions. He said, take a survey, ask them what the solution needs to look like to them. Because we don't know. We don't know what the solution needs to look like. He said, ask them. You don't know. They might not know, but ask them. It's like, hey, what does my solution need to have in order for you to feel like you're going to benefit from it? It's like, what 2 things? Then he says, what 2 things does my solution need to have within it? So what 1 problem does my solution need to solve? What 2 things does my solution need to have in it? And if I were to give it to you and it had all of these 3 things in it, what would you be willing to pay? Now that answers both of those questions kind of in a nutshell, that combination of marketing and solutions. So the solution is a byproduct of the marketing. And Junior said this before, market the thing that sells. He's like, sell the thing that, he says, you're in the business of marketing the thing, but not like selling the thing. He says it made much better than I do, but it's like you're really selling the thing, not you're selling the thing that sells the thing. You're not selling the thing. So to answer that question, it's marketing what the people tell you they want and giving them what they say, what you know they need. So that's what my experience was like with that. Travis said market research. So market research, there's 2 forms of market research at the technical level, and that is primary research and secondary research. So primary research is research that you do internal to your organization based off of the experiences that you've had with the market. Then there's secondary research, and secondary research is secondhand information that you are getting from outside sources. So when we do market research, there's a few methods that we use. We use surveying, we use focus groups, we use polls, different types of polls and things of that nature. We use data centers, so like aggregated data, averages and stuff like that. So those are some of the core forms of market research that you'll see. So one of the best ways that I've done market research is a combination of all 3 of them. And most of you all are in communities. So if you're in a community where it's like 5, 10, 15 people, hold a poll there. If you're in a Slack channel and you have access to multiple people, that's a great place to put up a survey and say, hey guys, give me some feedback on this. Or hey guys, I got a survey. Here's the link. Do you all mind putting this up in your communities so I can get some better feedback? So it's really a matter of getting data in. Once you've got the data in, then it's a matter of executing on that data effectively. And that's when we get back to the feedback loop piece, where it's build, measure, learn. So you build a survey, you measure the results of the survey, and then you learn, you take the data and you learn from that data, and then you iterate on whatever the product is. Moving down to Tia, I believe a mix of them all, that's if that's even possible. Yeah, it's definitely possible. So what I would say to this one is find one and stick there. Like find a place, and once you find one of them, let's say it's market research, let's say that's what you want to focus on, or it's messaging, that's what you want to focus on, or it's the product, that's what you want to focus on. Like pick one and focus on that one. I would say start with marketing. It makes very little sense to try to build a message without understanding the market, and it makes even less sense to try to fashion a product without understanding how you're going to market it or who you're going to sell it to. So it makes a lot of sense chronologically and sequentially to start with the messaging. Bradley says he's on the solution. And it's great, Bradley, because I see the back end work that's going on with what you've got going on, how you shot in ATL. It was phenomenal, man. So you're killing it. Congratulations on all the progress that you're seeing. So with the solution piece, what I have found there is the solution will organically develop. So one of the mistakes I made when I was going through this process, some of the first times, like I don't make this mistake as much anymore, but in the early days, I would try to create a rigid, detailed, super organized cookie cutter solution. And I was like, this is what I'm selling. And I would throw it into the marketplace and say, take it or leave it. Now, that approach is good for me because if people are buying it, I don't have to change it. It's rinse, wash, and repeat. It's super simple. It's great. But the reality is, if you're just getting started, the market doesn't know enough about their problem usually for them to know exactly what solution they're looking for. And you don't know enough about the market or your own solution to know if you should make it so rigid. So what I have found is very effective in the solution development phase, we call it product development and research development, or R&D, is developing a product and a prototype. We call it a prototype, and beta testing it. It's beta testing the solution. And when you beta test the solution, you pretty much can do what we call A/B testing. So that's a very common form of testing. Or you could do a straightforward form of testing where you iterate. So if you have a large enough community to beta test, what you can do is A/B testing. A/B beta testing is you can put one solution that's fashioned one way and another solution fashioned another way and put it both out to two different communities. Now, both of them are going to have the same problem, but they're going to be using two different solutions to achieve their end result. Now, what you're going to be looking for at this point is which of these solutions produces the better end result. Now, if you have two communities, you can clearly tell by contrast. Now, let's say you have one community and you don't have enough people to do A/B testing, or you don't have enough resources. So in that instance, what you will be doing is build, measure, learn, iterate. So you're going to build it, then you're going to test it, put it out there, measure the results of it. And then the feedback that they give you, this is where you want to be in hyper feedback mode. So when I was building my first courses 3-4 years ago, at the end of every course, I said, what did you guys like? What didn't you like? Was this a good call? Was this not a good call? And I was just collecting data, collecting feedback. And I took that feedback and iterated and grew the program. And lastly, I think she said like a clinical trial. Yes, Katrina, it's like a clinical trial. And Michelle said marketing and solution. So I think I covered that one. So with marketing and solution, Michelle, same thing that I said above. I would lead with the marketing and keep the solution as organic and flexible or adaptable as possible, because the people are going to tell you what they want. And as they tell you what they want, you'll deliver what they need. And as you find out what they need, then you start moving into what we call business development, product development. But right now you're in what we call proof of concept. So proof of concept says that it actually works. After you've achieved proof of concept, it's iteration development. And that says economics. How efficiently and effectively does it work? And then once you've got that, you start wrapping up. So that's my piece, guys.
All right, guys. So thank you so much, Bobby. We're going to go to a quick break, our final break. And then when we come back, we'll be talking more about branding. Stay tuned.
When I think of brand you, I think of being your best self, your most authentic. The reason why we were able to crush business, absolutely dominate in business without having the marketing list, without having the email huge list, without having the Facebook ads and the advertising budget, without knowing the algorithm. The reason we were able to do this is because I branded myself. I told my authentic story and I was comfortable in my skin. Why? Because it was that time in the world where everything was shifting. It was 2020, March. So you remember what happened during that time. It was like the world was coming to an end. So you didn't have anything to hold back. So I chose to give everything that I had and be everything that I am. And because I was that, because I branded me, because I was authentic, everything shifted. And people wanted more. And they wanted to know more about me and how they could become more comfortable in their skin. Listen, guys, when you brand you and not what you do, you're going to add a zero to the world, but you'll also add a zero to your revenue. Let's grow.
All right, guys. So we are back. Bobby, we're actually close to the end of the show, man. We have like 2 more minutes. Something I want to say. So I went like when I gave my breakdown, I went through a lot. I went through a lot. I know some people like sometimes even if you tell people what to do, they still have, you know, challenges with how to do it. If you want to learn how to do what I just tell you that you need to do, I want you to go to www.shawnrais.com and find a contact us form somewhere and just let us know that you were watching the show and you're interested because Bobby actually on the next Branded Like a Leader Academy call. So the people that were on the last call, I know we have a few members looking. We actually went through the 5W framework, which is the first part of Branded Like a Leader. On the next call, I'll be going into the ideal client, which is literally like the second half of the 5Ws. So the first 5Ws is about you. So who you are, what you do, what you represent, etc. But the second 5W framework is who the client is. So who is that target audience for you? What do they do? Why do they do what they do? Where do they do it? Like we're gonna be getting into that. If you're on the inside of the community, then don't miss, excuse me, next week, Wednesday. I'll be getting into that. I'll be teaching you exactly what I do and how to find, the current state, how to find the dream state, how to find a roadblock, how to find a solution, how to put together like a real in-depth idle client profile. But also, if you're on the outside, so if you're not part of the community as yet, then you could go to www.shawnrais.com. It's supposed to be somewhere at the bottom of the screen. And then you just fill out the contact us form. Somebody from my team will reach out to you, and then we'll help you to get started. But that's where we get into like the detailed part of what I'm talking about because like it's not easy. And this is something this methodology, Bobby, something that I've developed over several years. I've studied people like Dan Kennedy. I've studied, Jay Abraham, many people, and I've put together my own strategy that works for me, that is very, very effective, that I use to produce. I could produce landing pages, emails in hours, maybe one day, get messaging. I've even built custom chat GPT bots based on these methods that produces copy like instantly. So guys, if you want to learn how to do that kind of stuff, if you want to get your messaging right, go to www.shawnrise.com, fill out the contact us form. Let us know that you were looking at this particular episode of Breakfast with the Brand and that you want to learn how to get the idle client down. And then one of my team members will reach out to you and then we'll set something up. We'll do something special for you, okay? But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there, Bobby.
Yeah, it's amazing. Look forward to our conversation tomorrow, Junior. This one came out of left field. I love it. It's a great conversation.
Yes, definitely. But guys, if you enjoyed today, go ahead, put some flames in the comments for us. Let us know that you enjoy this. This is something that we do, basically for you, right? And by the way, this is 100% free. The only ask that I've ever had is if you find value from what we do, just share it with like literally one other person. You don't have to share it with, like, I'm not greedy. I'm not saying to share it with like 50 people or everybody you know. If you want to do that, that's fine, but you don't have to do that. You can literally just send it to your cousin, just send it to a friend, just send it to a coworker, send it to the person next to you, just send it to one person. For a parent, this is child friendly as well. So you could send it to your child who's interested in entrepreneurship. Just give it to one other person that you think would benefit from it, and then that would be enough. So pay it forward. That's the only thing I ask. Apart from that, Bobby, we'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time. We'll be talking about branding. Maybe we'll get into a little bit of sales, not sure as yet. But in any case, guys, today is what? Thursday? So have a phenomenal Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow on the show, same place, same time, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a phenomenal day and let's grow.
Let's grow.